The Paul Harrell Program on the Answer to Us Network.
All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Paul Harrell here. Congratulations. You found the show that reminds politicians they answer to us, we the people of the United States. Thanks so much for being with us today. Joining us now a little earlier than expected, but we're going to get it done anyway. Nonetheless, we have Nic Horton. He is from the ArkansasProject.com. Also, the Advanced Arkansas Institute. Nick, good to have you on the program again.
Paul, great to be with you as always. I appreciate you getting me in a little bit early today.
Oh, no problem. I understand you got other places, other things to do. Things come up, and so we will always accommodate anytime we can because, we like to have you on. We like the content and the conversation. Over at the ArkansasProject.com, there's an interesting series, actually, of interviews that you've had with state legislators, across our great state. One of them was Charlie Collins and the gun laws that he's proposing. Tell us a little bit about that. What did you get from that interview? I know we've talked about it before, but kind of refresh the listeners' memories, if you will.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's been a fun experience to be able to do these interviews. I've been able to sit down with several of we call them our Friends of Freedom at Advanced Arkansas Institute. These are just kind of some of the champions of limited government conservatism here in the state, people that are really going to the Capitol every day and fighting for conservative government, smaller government conservative principles. Charlie Collins is one of those. He is very smart guy. He's very conservative. He's got a lot of kind of just common sense ideas about ways that we can make our campuses more secure. Of course, anytime there's a school shooting, I know we talked a few weeks ago about the horrific events in Newton, Connecticut, and everything that happened there. And so out of that, we've got to start to look at ways that we can make our schools and our college campuses safer. And one of the things that Representative Collins proposed during the last session was a bill that would allow professors on university and college and community college campuses in the state of Arkansas that have a concealed carry permit to exercise that permit on campus.
Yeah.
There, of course, a lot of misinformation out there on that bill. You have Max Brantley and all these liberal bloggers and people out there saying, that Charlie Collins wants, teachers to be, carrying shotguns around campus and all these crazy things that you hear from the left when this kind of stuff comes up. But at the bottom line is the bill, and he plans to, again, try to pass it again this session. I think there's a very good chance that it will get passed. I'm certainly hopeful for that. But again, it would allow only concealed carry holders, so only people that have already gone through that process, not just any professor, it's not just any employee of a university.
Okay.
It's someone who already has that concealed carry permit. I think that's an important detail that perhaps deliberately got left out in a lot of the coverage. And
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. So, would it be fair to say that essentially what it is, within the scope of the law, gun-free zones would kind of be no more, at least gun-free zones when it comes to, on college campuses and things like that. If you've jumped through the right hoops and are legally allowed to carry a concealed weapon, then, there should be no, basically another government institution saying, well, your license doesn't apply here?
Right. It would be an amendment to the existing concealed carry law. But again, it would only apply to professors and other full-time faculty, so people that work in the registrar's office and things like that. It does not apply to students. This bill does not. Now, I talked with Representative Collins. He feels like down the road, eventually, that's something that he wants to try to push for, but I think he's very smart in his approach in that he realizes this is something that has to be done incrementally, a little bit at a time. And so this is just kind of one step in that direction to try to get professors, because obviously I think you and I and probably most people agree, college students that have gone through the concealed carry process, why shouldn't they have the same constitutional rights as professors? If they've gone through that process and they've, proven to be, passed all the tests and proven to be responsible enough to carry a handgun, why should they not be allowed to protect themselves on college campuses, which have proven to be, a harvesting ground for a lot of these psychopaths that they know, these people know where the gun-free zones are. I mean, we can talk about it all, till we're blue in the face. These people know where people are unarmed, and that's where they go and shoot. I think it's an important issue, and I think I like Representative Collins' approach.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's good, and you can definitely see right now. I think conservatism in Arkansas is on the rise, and I think we're going to see that in a lot of the bills coming up this next session. Also, another legislator you got to interview is Representative David Meeks. And that's up on the ArkansasProject.com right now. And I got to tell you, I was reading it, and I love what he has to say about state sovereignty, and I love what he has to say about the possibility of stopping the Obamacare exchanges. Did you get a good feeling when you were talking with David Meeks?
Oh, absolutely. Representative Meeks is one of our friends of freedom, one of the most conservative legislators at the Capitol. He has been a very consistent conservative voice on almost every issue. I mean, I can't think of an issue where he's wavered on guns, on taxes, on family issues. He's just a solid conservative, and yeah, he is one of these guys that has been down there kind of leading the charge against these Obamacare exchanges. I know he has been a very valuable source of information for me when I'm trying to put together a story or get some information out there about what is the current state, because it's all just kind of this nebulous thing. Well, Obamacare and exchanges and a state exchange and a federal exchange, and what's really going on? It's such a huge, massive thing to try to wrap your brain around, and I think he's kind of one of those legislators that's been out there at the front trying to get all the information, trying to get all the facts, and trying to put all this stuff together. And so he's been just a huge help to us to try to figure out what's the best way forward. Of course, AI, we've got a new policy paper out. Folks can check that out as well at advancearkansas.org. We're suggesting, and we feel like the best policy for Arkansas at this point is to move forward with the federal exchange. The state exchange is just not going to be as conservative of an approach. It's going to cost a lot more money. And we feel like, I talked with Senator Rayford today from Conway, and I'll have an interview up with him next week. And I like the way that he put this. As he said, the federal government passed this thing, and now we feel like it's their job, like it's up to them to figure out how to make it work. Don't come to us, the state, and try to tell us, okay, here, now figure this out and figure out how to pay for it. You created this mess, now you're going to have to fix it and run it. And again, that goes back to a lot of what Representative Meeks was talking about in this article about state sovereignty. Making sure that we keep a check on the federal government and make sure that they stay within the bounds of the Constitution. It's an uphill battle, and I think it's a constant fight. I don't know that we can ever really win it, but we have to keep up the fight. Otherwise, we'll just totally lose our sovereignty altogether. So, great article. I encourage people to go check it out at the ArkansasProject.com. Yeah,
it is. It's a great interview. And to what you were saying about, what Jason Rayford said, a lot of times, and I was going to talk about this today, I've got the stories in the other room about a lot of the federal laws that have been passed throughout our history that the states just simply ignore. Or, like you were saying, we say, well, we're not going to implement it. I mean, it's your law. You're the one that's trying to exercise this central authority on us, so go for it. We're not going to cooperate. And basically, it's, how many times that actually has, the federal government has just, extended the deadline for compliance over and over and over again because the states just simply are saying we're not going to comply. You're going to have to come in here and do it for us. And I personally, I'm personally so opposed to the freedom killing piece of legislation known as Obamacare that I think that's the only way we have right now after the Supreme Court ruling to resist this thing, and that's just to say, to do nothing, and to say, come down here and set it up, and we know the logistics of that, of the states not, cooperating and leaving it up to the federal government. The federal government, as big as they are, they're not going to be able to set these exchanges up in the amount of states that haven't done it yet. I mean, do you agree with that, Nick?
Yeah, I tend to think so. I think there's kind of from what I understand, it's such a complex issue, but from what I understand, there's sort of this a finite amount of money out there that they can use for these healthcare exchanges. I encourage all your listeners to go and check out a lot of what the Cato Institute, Michael Cannon, their health expert, health policy expert out there. A lot of the things that he has put out is, basically, there's a finite amount of money that is appropriated within the Affordable Care Act to set up these exchanges, and there's not enough money there for the federal government to do it in every state. And so I think this is really, at this point, after the Supreme Court ruling, this is really our only recourse, is to put it back on the federal government and say, no, you figure out how to pay for it. And in the meantime, perhaps we can start working towards repealing it again. But I do think that is the best option. I will tell you, I think some of this happened since we've visited here on the program. But back on the 21st, right before Christmas, the Arkansas Legislative Council met, and one of the issues that they were considering and did go ahead and adopt was whether or not to accept an $18.4 million grant from the federal government to set up a state exchange. There were several legislators there, Representative John Burris and a few others, who spoke up and tried to slow this down. It basically came down to procedural issue, but what the Democrats did was package this grant in with a bunch of other stuff and tried to pass it all really quickly on a voice vote.
Imagine that.
And imagine that. And Representative Burris stood up and made a motion to withdraw this $18.4 million for Obamacare, to have a separate discussion on that, and then actually was able to get a roll call vote called, and the motion failed. And so that grant was passed along with a bunch of other grants that were accepted, including a grant for Planned Parenthood, receiving, I believe, $200-something thousand from the state of Arkansas. So a lot of that information's up right now. People can go to the Arkansas Project and scroll through the last couple of stories from about a couple weeks ago and kind of figure out what's going on. But basically where it stands right now is that the Legislative Council, the Democrats, have said we're going to take this money. And what Representative Meeks is saying is that money can only be spent now through the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th.
Okay.
And so one of the things that the legislature is going to be taking up starting this month is, can that money be spent starting July 1st, starting in the next fiscal year? And that's where he's hopeful that when the Republican majority takes office and comes in, that they'll be able to, yes, that money will be in the state coffers, but that they'll be able to stop it from actually being spent on the exchanges.
Well, I want to again encourage everybody to go to the ArkansasProject.com and, I mean, just go through all these lists of articles that you've written and all the great studies. Check out the AI plan of action. What do you call it again, Nick? I always forget.
Action Plan for Arkansas.
Okay, yeah. Check out the Action Plan for Arkansas and do all that, because it's really comprehensive. I mean, it's a great starting place from where we go from here. And I want to keep it with Arkansas politics because we have a few minutes left, Nick. But
sure.
I know 2014 seems like a long way away, but the governor's race seems to kind of already be heating up. I mean, I know with Dustin McDaniel in the headlines like he was a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's it's a target-rich environment. But something interesting happened yesterday, and we actually had Curtis Coleman on. But he filed basically to form an exploratory committee. He filed yesterday to maybe possibly seek a run for the office of governor. What did you think when you heard the news? Just how do you what's your general feeling on that?
Sure. I don't think that it came as much of a surprise to me or you or people that are particularly tuned into Arkansas politics. I think Curtis has been kind of laying the groundwork for this over the last couple of years since he finished up his Senate campaign. I like Curtis. I think he's a smart guy, and I think he's a thoughtful conservative. I think the real test for him, just politically speaking, is going to be, see how much money he can raise. I think it's going to take, $500,000 to $1 million for him to really to compete, just even in the primary. I'm not, I'm not at the point of, and I probably won't at any point, make any type of endorsement or anything like
Right.
that. But personally, I hope we have 3 or 4 candidates. I hope we have a fairly big field, and I hope that we have some good debate. I think there's a lot of talent out there. I know that former Congressman Asa Hutchinson has made some rumblings. I think the Lieutenant Governor is probably still considering jumping in.
Yeah.
Congressman Womack potentially is a name out there. I know Congressman Griffin's name was out there for a while, but he's made it clear that he's not interested at this point. So, honestly, I would kind of like just for the sport of it, I'd kind of like to see all those guys get in, and let's have a real good conversation. Let's have some debates, and let's have a real contest here to see who's got the best ideas and the best vision for the state. I think Curtis's 2 challenges will be, raising that money, and then I think again just kind of convincing the people of Arkansas, why he thinks that he should be governor.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the onus on any candidate for any office is, why do you think you're qualified for the job? And
I agree.
And I think that's something I'm interested to hear from him is, why does he think he's more qualified than, any of those other potential candidates? So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited about it. We're going to have a Republican governor, I think, pretty much regardless of what happens. So
yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it does, and I kind of like what you say. I mean, if you do get to the situation where you have more conservative candidates in the race, you're going to hopefully, if that's the case, you have a campaign of substance. And I think the state of Arkansas and the people, that's what we're clamoring for. We're clamoring for not any kind of cheap political games, which is probably what the other side's going to do when it comes to a general election. But let's actually have a campaign of substance, and of course, it's going to be about the money as well because it always is. If you shift towards the left, Nick, and you look at where Attorney General Dustin McDaniel is right now, do you think he survives this? What are your thoughts on that?
I think he could survive. I think he's very vulnerable, and I think there's almost, I'd say probably a 90% chance that former Lieutenant Governor Bill Halter is going to get in. I think that he is opportunistic enough, and I think that he can kind of smell the blood in the water. And I think that I think he gets in, and I think he gives Dustin McDaniel a very serious run for his money. I honestly don't have any predictions at this point as far as who would prevail in that primary.
Yeah.
I think as far as the general election, I think that Bill Halter would be probably a much easier candidate to take out. I think Dustin McDaniel will probably be a little bit more formidable, but we'll see. We'll see what else comes out about his affair and all of these things. There's new stuff coming out about, it looks like she was involved with several cases.
I know. It's incredible. What a conflict of interest. I mean, he's opposing counsel, and it's just, to me, it gets worse and worse by the day. And here's the thing, and I wonder, me personally, I wonder, being in Northeast Arkansas, him being from Northeast Arkansas, if the people around here listening are going to wake up. I mean, because it seems that I know a lot of us here in Arkansas are family values people, but just because, you have on your campaign posters and your Christmas cards pictures of your family doesn't necessarily mean, you represent family values. But I think a lot of people are going to have to come to that realization here in the States.
No, absolutely. And I think, again, we'll see what else comes out, but I think what little that we know right now, just as far as her being opposing counsel in several of these cases, I mean, at the very least, it seems to be a failure of execution of his duties as Attorney General. I mean, it seems to be just a very serious lack of judgment. And I think, politicians have affairs. That's what they do. So, that's, to me, is kind of a separate issue. But this legal issue, I think, is much more serious.
I agree.
Hopefully we're going to get a lot more information in the coming months.
Yeah, and on that, I mean, is there any kind of investigation being planned yet? I mean, have you heard about that?
I don't know. I've been kind of snooping around out there just online and in the blogosphere and stuff, and there's a lot of talk. I know, there's some other conservative bloggers that have a lot more questions, and me being one of them. I don't know. Luckily for him, it all kind of broke right right before the holidays, and so everyone just kind of tuned out and went into kind of like that holiday glaze over.
Right.
And so, politics have kind of cooled down the last couple of weeks. We'll see. We'll see if we can stir the pot up a little bit more.
Well, yeah, there's got to be an investigation at some point. I mean, because you can't have the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas. You can't have the integrity of that position, be put into question with what's going on. And obviously, like you said, there are more questions that need answers. But yeah, there's going to be an investigation if I had to, anything to say about it. So.
But my question is, if there's going to be an investigation, who's going to do it? I don't think Governor Beebe is going to be too interested in having that investigation happen, and I don't think the Attorney General's office is going to be too interested in doing it. So,
no, they can't. This is what I was talking with an attorney over the holidays, and we were just kind of speculating, and my friend was saying, look, I mean, he would have to, not necessarily resign or anything, but the investigation would just be very complicated, and him representing the state on other cases or current cases would have to be called into question as well. It's just a big can of worms is what the conclusion was.
Oh, absolutely. Well, maybe one possibility is maybe the state could hire his mistress to do the investigation.
Yeah, there you go. Or maybe we could figure out a way to get the ex-husband, the podiatrist, get him a law degree or give him some sort of investigative power, and I'm sure we'll get a much better result. Nic Horton, the ArkansasProject.com and Advanced Arkansas Institute. Nick, thanks for being with us. I really do appreciate it, sir.
Hey, enjoyed it as always. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, we'll talk again next week. Folks, got to go to break. Back in just a minute.